Now, I said I was going to talk about the importance of Zen and meditation and hypnosis. Well, meditation is a fundamental part of Zen, and Zen is a branch of Buddhism, which some of you may know is a philosophy. It's not a religion, although perhaps there are variants of it that are. But people have a lot of difficulty in defining what Zen actually is. And an example that was given to me is that you've got the guru, you know, sitting on the floor, and he's got his students all sitting around them, and they're doing meditation. And they're all holding a flower of some description, and they're all sitting there cross-legged. And after about 2 hours, one of the students says, "Excuse me for asking, but what are we supposed to be meditating about?" And the master, the guru, speaks to the student, and he said, "If you have to ask a question like that, unfortunately, it means you'll never know the answer," which I think is a fantastic get-out cause. I'm going to use that all the time. But it's supposed to be an intuitive thing, and Zen says that you learn things intuitively, and that you get out of your own way. Some of these expressions we've heard today, we've heard Tiger use them. You get out of the way. You let your true self take over. You stop worrying about stuff. You stop worrying about this left brain stuff. And the other expression people use is effortless effort. The book that I'm writing at the moment is not about golf at all. I don't think I mentioned it once. And it's called Pushing at Open Doors. And it's a personal development book, which is, I hope, will help people to realize that there are some doors that they can batter down if they really want to, but they're probably doors that are best left closed, and they explore the doors that are opening in front of them, or they just have to push. Because if you're doing that, you're really instinctively following what you're really good at, what you know inside you're really good at, and we're all really good at stuff. And you know, Greg is a personal coach, and he was talking to me earlier, and you know, Greg's got a pretty good idea of how he'd like to spend his life, the things that he's good at, and I think that's what we should all do. If we, you know, we shouldn't be one of those 80% of people who hate their jobs. We either change the way we think about the job, or we do a different job. I know that's easier said than done, especially in the present economic climate. So how do people learn to meditate? Well, when I was a student, I was about 21. At that time, there was this movement called transcendental meditation, and the Beatles were into that. That's when they started doing Sgt. Pepper and all of this crazy stuff. And these people were going around the universities, and they're offering these courses to learn TM, as it was called. And I did. I don't know why. It wasn't a terribly expensive thing to do. And we were taught these mantras that you have to say to yourself. You know, a classic one is Om. And you do this for about 20 minutes twice a day in a darkened room. And I did that off and on for many years. And I'm sure that I gained some benefit from it in terms of mind control. I learned how to drop my pulse rate. One day I know that that's going to help me. I mean, if going back to Dave Peltz and 10,000 hours, I've probably got 30,000 hours more life because my pulse is going slower. That's what I hope. We'll find out, won't we? But it does help because it helps you to control stress. And there's been all kinds of studies done on the benefits of meditation. Now, I'm not trying to push meditation to you, but I do think that everyone needs a quiet period in their day. And people meditate in all kinds of different ways. You can do it by listening to music, you can do it by dancing, just something to get away from what you normally do, which is what may cause you stress and worry. A period of quietness, a period of inward reflection. Because when you can find that quiet place, that's when the right brain has a chance to speak. Because during the rest of the day, that left brain that is driving us with our diaries and our agendas and everything else that we have to stick to, the right brain doesn't get heard, because it's the quietest member of the parliament. And in any group and in any parliament is often the quietest people who have the most valuable things to say. So, if meditation is a good thing, how do we do it? Well, you could do the 20 minutes saying your mantra, whatever it might be. You could, I think meditation can be as simple or as difficult as you want to make it. And a very simple meditation that I know that some people, quite a lot of people do when they need to get into a relaxed state pretty quickly, like within 10 seconds, is to switch off the external stimuli, the five senses thing, as much as they can. And a way to do that is to raise your eyes and find some point on the ceiling or on the wall or on one of these flip charts, and do it right now, and just stare fixedly for 10 seconds while I keep quiet. That's probably about 10 seconds. Did anybody notice anything?
It went very quiet. I was just counting, nothing else.
It did go really quiet, didn't it? What else did we notice?
My mind was empty of other thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the kind of things that we notice. And it all, when I do this exercise, it's always amazing how quiet a room can be. It's almost uncomfortably quiet, isn't it? You know, think, well, why doesn't somebody switch the radio on, or somebody chat? Or because we are surrounded by noise, we expect that as normal. Now, hypnosis, and I think when I finish this bit, or maybe a bit on, we'll have our 3:30 break. An awful lot of stuff is talked about hypnosis, whether it's good or bad. People don't even know what hypnosis is. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I work with Paul McKenna, as I might have mentioned earlier, and I talked to him about some of this stuff, and he made his living at the start of his career by doing a lot of stage hypnotism. And it's true that you can make people do all kinds of crazy stuff on stage, but he doesn't do that anymore now. He uses it in more of a therapeutic technique, and you know the work that he does with making people, helping people to lose weight. He's very successful in the States with the series he's got, and he's now moving into other areas of personal development, and he's highly successful. He tells me he's the world's leading best-selling author in the non-fiction genre, and he probably is, because everywhere you go his books are there. I can make you thin, I can make you rich, I can make you stop smoking. So he's highly successful. And by the way, he makes these CDs as well that you can listen to, which again are a form of guided meditation. But he got stung quite badly, I think, in 1996 when he was involved in a High Court case, when as a result of one of the shows that he was doing, one of the people said that as a result of being called on stage, he became schizophrenic. And it was a long High Court case, which must have been very stressful, because it was, you know, very much accusing him of causing this man's mental illness, which is a terrible thing for anybody, even if that was the truth. But the court ruled that there was no way that hypnosis could be connected with the onset of schizophrenia, and that's my belief as well. But it certainly didn't do much good for the hypnosis movement at that time. And I think that's when Paul started talking about the H word, didn't even give it its name, the H word. But now it seems to be coming back into vogue, and people see it as more of a helpful thing. They see it more of positive affirmations. And I'm a hypnotist, and I use it, perhaps not as much as I used to. But on the other hand, I think I probably use it more often in a more gentle form. Because hypnosis is not about watches swinging and your eyes getting tired and you closing your eyes, and usually the person's got a German accent. Hypnosis is about switching on the TV and seeing adverts, because if you want to learn who are the master hypnotists, it's the people who devise these adverts, and at the moment my favorite is BMW. They've got this wonderful car with mum and dad and little boy and little girl and a big floppy dog in the back and an open top, and they're driving through the mountains. And there's very few words, you know, they're not selling the Durchspring technique stuff and miles per gallon and all that kind of stuff. They're selling one word, which is the last word that comes on at the end of this little clip, and they're selling joy. And that's a hypnotic message. So their imagery, their feeling, they're making people think, gosh, that could be me driving that car, smiling with a dog in my left ear, apparently. It must be successful. Politicians are wonderful hypnotists. They've probably all been trained in public speaking. The best public speaker going on the rounds at the moment that I see is President Obama. He's a fantastic public speaker. We can see clips of Martin Luther King. Do you remember that fantastic speech that he made when he talked about I have a dream? Yeah, I saw the whole thing, and you know, the first half of his speech was incredibly turgid and rather boring. But suddenly, you know, you saw him throw the script away, you know, physically and metaphorically, and speaking from the heart. And he got into that zone, you know, of eloquence, of the groove into his right brain. And that's what public speakers can do. Now, when any public speaker, whenever a politician says, and they're saying this all the time, or I hear it all the time on radio because I'm tuned into it, when they say, because the truth is, when they say that, you'd better be careful of what follows. I don't know, there's something about that statement. There's something about that because word. I read in a book that a study is being done by a photocopying machine. And there's a big queue for the photocopier because we're all right-sizing and there's not enough machines to go around for everybody. And there's always a queue for it. And this part of the experiment, this young lady pushes to the front. And everybody gets annoyed and she does a photocopying. And then next time she pushes to the front because my boss needs it in a minute. If I don't get it, I'm in real big trouble. And say, oh, come on, please, please. And then she pushes to the front and she says, because. Oh, okay. There's something about this because word. Any word, any sentence that starts because of because, for some reason, the mind accepts it. No idea why that is. Because the truth is. And now, Bernie, you were talking to me at lunchtime about NLP because you've done some NLP training. And NLP, by the way, stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And Bernie said it's a bit of a heavy term. And I said it is. And I said, and I know where that term comes from. And I'll share it with you now because you've heard a bit about NLP and just so that you know. Richard Bandler, who was the co-founder with John Grinder, they're both working at university. And John Grinder was in the, I think, languages or something, English or something, and Richard Bandler was working with computers. And Richard Bandler was stopped by the police, which I think happened quite a lot during those times, and they said occupation, and he thought, I can't say student or researcher because they're suspicious of people like us, especially with long hair. So he said NLP. What does NLP stand for? Neuro-Linguistic Programming. He made it up on the spot. Because on the car seat next to him, he had a neurology journal, he had a language tape, and he had some software programming. So that's where it comes from, NLP. That's why nobody knows to this day really what NLP means. But I've given you one example. It's modeling people who are really, really successful. It's also about the importance of language, and especially hypnotic language, and it's why a word like because can be so powerful. Other words that are really powerful are those that end in ly. If you start a sentence with ly, like truthfully, suddenly, surprisingly, again, for some reason the mind skips straight to the sentence and accepts everything in between. So what's hypnosis? I don't know. I'm a practitioner of hypnosis and I don't know what hypnosis is. I know it when I see it or when I hear it. I hear it when I listen to Dylan Thomas reading Under Milkwood. I hear it when I listen to Richard Burton. I feel it when I read Shakespeare, not caring what the words are, but just the structure and tonality. And I hear it when I listen to the nature programs with David Attenborough, because he's the most powerful hypnotist I know. He's got a great voice. Hypnosis and meditation, I think they're the same thing. It's something that appeals to us, something in our language. It's the way a mother speaks to a child. Anyway, we're going to end this session with another little hypnosis, and I need a volunteer for this one. We've gone through a lot of stuff today, and most of you agreed, yes, this can work for me. I can see how it could work, most of it. The stuff that I talk about, some of the stuff you'll think, yeah, that's good. Some of the stuff you'll say, no, that's not going to work for me. Some of the stuff, don't know, need to try. Might like it, might not like it. But is there anybody who's got a feeling that this isn't going to work for them? That it might work for everybody else, but it may not work for them because there's a self-saboteur at work? Andy, why won't it work? Why may it not work for you?
I'm just so bad at trying to switch off the negative voice in here. As much as it's easy to say, go do it, I'm just not sure whether I can switch it off long enough, give myself that break.
Mm-hmm. Are there any techniques that you've heard about today that you could try, you
I
could put to
think that,
use?
The breathing made a big difference there.
Yeah, you were good at that, weren't you?
That's what I've done a little bit of meditation. I'm very bad at it. I mean, if it's guided, I can do it. If it's music, I can do it. But otherwise, I can't shut out all the peripheral stuff. So coming into that circle, breathing as you go into it, I reckon might help.
Yeah. Would you care to bring your chair on stage? Yep, perfect. Yeah, facing, I'll tell you what, half facing me, like that. Give him some applause, by the way. Because I haven't told Andy yet what I'm going to do. So you're trusting me, aren't you?
Yes.
Good, so you should. Do you have that voice telling you not to do other stuff?
Yeah.
That it won't work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you one of these people that we mentioned earlier, you're probably your own harshest critic?
Yep.
Yeah. Close your eyes. And I want you to hold your two hands in front of you, palm up. I'll just help you. Yeah, that's good enough. Is it okay if I touch you on your wrist like that from time to time, Andy? Yeah. Now, in this hand here, I just want to raise it off your knees a little bit, but just so it's comfortable. In fact, both of them, just a little. Yeah, that's perfect, like that. And that's going to be your left brain. And that's going to be the part of the brain that is protecting you from all the stuff that you've seen happen to other people, all the stuff that might have happened to you, all the stuff you've read about in the newspapers, because that's the thing that's guarding you from the same stuff happening to you. It's a collection of memories and thoughts and emotions and all the rest of it. And it's not something you want to get away from. It's not something that I want to take away from you at all, because it's one of the most valuable things that you have. Now, in your right hand, you've got the Andy that's the right brain, that is very creative, that can hook himself up to that simple breathing machine and get into the green pretty good. There's a guy who's pretty relaxed, who's got a very creative right brain. So you have within those two hands all the resources you need to do pretty much whatever you want. The difficulty for you is deciding what it is that you want to do. Now, today we're talking about golf, and there are parts of your game that you would like to improve. I seem to remember you would like to improve your success with the 8-foot putts. And I seem to remember an issue with driving, finding the right swing plane. Well, some of these things you might find on the practice range and some of the things you might not. But I suspect that deep inside yourself, you'll find answers to many of the things. It's just finding the right answer at the right time. It's getting the brake and the accelerator to work in harmony with each other, just the way that on that machine a few minutes ago, your heart and your brain were working in harmony. So with the weight of your left brain in the one hand and your creative right brain in the other, don't answer this in words, but I want you to give me a nod or a shake of the head when you're ready. Do you think that it is possible, and I use the word possible here, do you think that it's possible that the brake and the accelerator, the left and the right, the protector and the creative can get together and make this one fly? Yeah, it is possible. Now we just have to find a way to do it. Now I want to slowly put your hands together. Put your hands, bring them together and fold them together as if you're holding an egg or a cup or whatever. Because inside your hands, you've put the two together. Now they said they can work together. You said it's possible for them to explore ways to be on the same team because they have the same agenda. They have the same person that they're supporting, and it's you. Now rub your hands together and feel them mixing. Feel that there's no left and right anymore. No right and left, no left and right, no unconscious, no protecting, no defensing. They will go together. Now hold your hands together and bring them to your heart. And take a deep breath in and blow it out. Put your hands back on your legs and open your eyes. Now, how do you feel now?
Very relaxed. Very relaxed. More balanced between when I first sitting down, because everything else go in my mind. I could always feel a pressure behind the left eye, and the left side of the brain was whizzing, and I just feel more level between there.
That's good enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done, Andy. Until you step off the stage. Any questions? No? Sorry?
His right brain in his left hand and his left brain in his right hand. You intentionally did that.
I didn't intentionally do anything. I just did what felt right at the time. Everybody's different. I did what I hoped would resonate with Andy. What was your comment, Andy, or your question?
I was immediately aware of it because I suppose that analytical part of the brain was still ticking away. He said left but touched right. It took me a moment to get past that. It was interesting.
Sometimes we have to make little...
Yeah, it confused the hell out of me. We should probably know where to start. Thank you.
Okay.
You things like in normal day-to-day life, we do it ourselves this or
What?
hypnotize ourselves or?
A lot of this joining up of the dots of everything that we study takes place at night, because that's when our left brain goes to sleep and our right brain never sleeps. And have you heard of people who say, oh, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, guess what? With an answer to a problem or something. And I said, okay, what's the answer? I've forgotten. Then there's other people who wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, they jot it down. Now, I know a lot of people who, if they've got a problem that they don't know the answer to, their last thought at night before they go to sleep is, while I'm sleeping, my brain is going to look at this problem, and by the time I wake up in the morning, I'm going to have a set of options or decisions or guidances or whatever. And people use their own language. I know some people who say, when I'm dreaming, I'm going to meet President Lincoln or Paul McKenna or whoever, Phil Mickelson, and he's going to help me with my golf swing, my meditation, who knows what it is. What you're doing is you're giving away the problem to somebody else. And you may well be sleeping and meeting these people in your dreams. I don't know. Maybe you're just freeing your unconscious mind to look at a problem from a different perspective. But I know that it works because I work with people for whom it works. The power of the unconscious mind. It makes sense of a lot of this stuff, all at a rate and speed that's appropriate for the individual. And today, the last bit, I mentioned that I spent 3 days in Myrtle Beach with a top coach. And we met for breakfast, and we talked all through the day, and we talked through dinner. And I don't think that either of us got bored. Well, I certainly didn't. And the topic of our conversation was, what is special about people like Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson? And what is this quality that we call magic? Now, the Wikipedia definition of magic is an inexplicable event. And it means what it says. We don't have an explanation currently. And there's an awful lot in the world that we can't explain. We spoke this morning about the millions of processes that are going on in your body that regulate your metabolism to the most precise unit that we don't know anything about. We don't need to worry about it because it happens on its own. And there's something about these people that happens on its own, and it can't be coincidence. It can't be coincidence that whenever Tiger Woods is in the last round or the last few holes of the final round, something happens that really just knocks his opponent sideways. You know, he pitches in or something or other, and I told you about Craig Perks and his last 3 holes, and we've talked about Phil Mickelson in the 3rd round of the Masters last year, and that incredible shot that he played in the final round, which really sealed the championship, as they said. And we didn't come up with any answers. We had a lot of interesting discussion, and so very shortly I'm going to talk more about that and some of the more esoteric theories in the world of golf, which are just for you to think about. Now, anyway, back to Myrtle Beach and the property of magic, or really, more accurately, things that we don't understand. There is this movie and audio book going around called The Secret. You heard of that? Anybody seen it? Nobody's seen it? Some people have seen it. You know, I think it's a Marmite thing, as my publisher says. People either love it or they hate it. Well, I bought it and watched it once a year or so ago and didn't take too much in. And for some reason last month I watched it again. And I found it really, really interesting. And all I know is that it's a bestseller. I mean, you look on the iTunes charts, it's been #1 in almost every country in the world. So that tells me there must be something in it that's of value. So I've got a little clip to play you, which might lead to a wider discussion. Tell me what you think of some of the phrases and things in here.
You're in India of a fraction of a second. I don't care if you're in India, if you're in Australia, New Zealand, Stockholm or London, or Toronto or Montreal or New York. We're all working with one power, one law. It's attraction. The secret is the law of attraction. Everything that's coming into your life, you are attracting into your life. And it's attracted to you by virtue of the images you're holding in your mind. It's what you're thinking. You see, whatever is going on in your mind, you are attracting to you. Now, wise people have always known that. You can go right back to the ancient Babylonians. They've always known this. It's a small, select group of people. Why do you think that 1% of the population earns around 96% of all the money that's being earned? Do you think that's an accident? It's no accident. It's designed that way. They understand something. They understand the secret. And you are being introduced to the secret.
The simplest way for me to look at the law of attraction is if I think of myself as a magnet, and I know that a magnet will attract to it.
Very basically put, the law of attraction says that like attracts like, but we're really talking at a level of thought.
Our job as humans is to hold on to the thoughts of what we want, make it absolute clear in our minds what we want, and from that we start to invoke one of the greatest laws in the universe, and that's the law of attraction. You become what you think about most, but you also attract what you think about most.
If you see it in here, you're going to hold it here.
And that principle can be summed up in 3 simple words. Thoughts become things.
What most people don't understand is a thought has a frequency. Every thought has a frequency. We can measure a thought. And so if you're thinking that thought over and over and over again, or if you're imagining in your mind, okay, having that brand new car, having the money that you need, building that company, finding your soulmate, if you imagine what that looks like, you're emitting that frequency on a consistent basis.
Thoughts are sending out that magnetic signal that is drawing the parallel back to you.
See yourself living in abundance, and you will attract it. It always works. It works every time with every person.
Okay, it's very naughty of me to show a short little clip like that from, you know, of what has been a very successful movie. But I haven't, you know, we're not here to watch a movie. We're here to watch just a couple of minutes or something. But I thought there were some powerful messages in there, and I'm interested to know what you think, especially those of you who've seen the whole film.
I think, I mean, I love the movie, and it can be a bit cheesy at times, but I mean, it's very, very inspiring, and I certainly think that's true. In terms of application on the course, I think my problem is that sometimes I want to win so badly that my thought of winning the tournament actually could not be that helpful because I'm not really staying in the present.
I think there are 2 levels that you can interpret that. There's within our physical, biological body, which incorporates the unconscious mind, and how, you know, in even a cognitive behavioural sense, our thoughts create our attitudes and therefore behaviours and outcomes.
Yep.
But you can then take it, as probably The Secret does, at more of a spiritual level of energy flows and quantum physics, which I don't actually understand, but wish I could.
Yeah, indeed so. And I wouldn't worry about not understanding quantum physics, because nobody does. You're in very good company there. It's pretty interesting, though. He knows a lot about it, or he writes a lot about it, but I think he's a pretty honest, grounded person, and I think he would say the whole thing is pretty much beyond comprehension. And the secret leads on to this law of attraction that they mentioned briefly, you know, how law of attraction is that good thoughts attract other good thoughts, and good people attract good people, and the opposite is true as well. And they say you can summarize the law of attraction in ask, believe, receive. The way that I looked at it, and you know, like I said, I think I'm a bit like you. I didn't get too much from it the first time round, but the second time round it meant more to me. And my word, in one word, was visualization. All of the various people they interview, they've all got a very big picture of what it is. And I mentioned that earlier with clients. People who have big pictures, they accomplish big things. And now one of the things that we discussed in Myrtle Beach was, I said we'd get onto a bit of physics here, very, very light physics. A picture of the electromagnetic spectrum. Anybody can remember from their school days what the electromagnetic spectrum was? It's all the frequencies that surround us. Everything can be broken down into a wavelength. And we're surrounded by waves right now that none of us are aware of. These big waves on that far side are things like the radio waves. Well, you know, now we've got Wi-Fi and everything else. We can even add those to the wavelengths that are around us. And when we go to hospital, you know, we've got the X-rays that can see through our flesh to the bones, and then the gamma rays that can see inside the bones and even inside the atoms and everything else. And of course, these are highly destructive because they damage tissue. And all we can see is this bit here, which is what we call the visible light. If the wavelength is not in this area, we don't see it. Now, an idle speculation when I was talking to this guy, what about if some people, you know, these gifted people, whether they're artists or musicians or golfers or whatever, what about if they can get a bit more bandwidth than we can be? And this guy looked at me and he said, yeah, that's what it is. That's what Tiger has. I said, okay, what's Tiger got? He said, he's got the ability to put up his aerial whenever he wants to. And I thought that was a brilliant metaphor at the time. And it is only a metaphor, but you look at Tiger in those last few holes in his previous history, and you look at Phil Mickelson, it is as if they can suddenly get into that place where they can do stuff that statistically, you know, a computer can't work it out. How can you get, you know, birdie, eagle, birdie, and you by 2 inches over 1,500 yards or something? It can't happen like that. And where are the laws of nature? Where are the statisticians who can work that out? Caroline forgot to mention, you know, she was my first client. In my viewpoint, family and friends are great, but they're pretty expensive and they can be irritating sometimes. But they do have uses. They're good on a Sunday when you can't get anybody else to work the technical stuff and do all the introductions and everything. And they're really good as guinea pigs when you want to try out new stuff. And when I first got into, I've always been interested in psychology, even when I was a conventional doctor. Now I have the opportunity to explore it more. And I did some training with Richard Bandler and others. And I saw straight away the applicability of some of this stuff to golf. And Caroline has told you she was a 27 handicapper, and she was my first subject. And she did pretty well, you know, she's got a handicap of 13 or something, and as she says herself, she's not far off single figures. But the most remarkable thing that she didn't tell you was that within a 6-month period, she had 3 holes in 1. Now you work out the odds of that. Our local pro gave up. He was working it out on his calculator, he gave up. He said, I don't know what the odds of that would be. And that's what I told this coach. His name was Nick Bradley, who, as I mentioned, he used to coach Justin Rose, and that's what we were talking about. And somebody said, and we were talking earlier about holes in 1. Are holes in 1 random, or are they not? Do we live in a random universe or not? These are wonderful things to speculate, and this is where the old quantum energy bit comes in, the quantum theory. Johnny Wilkinson's into that, by the way. He said, I've put a bit about it in my book. He said it's very simple, really. It's Schrodinger's cat and it's made all the difference. It's made my life simple and all the rest of it. Well, I didn't understand it. Have you all heard of Schrödinger's cat? Well, this is how confusing this whole area is. This is the example that people quote, and it's not a very politically correct story, but you get a box and a vial of cyanide and you put a cat in and you put the top on the box. Now, when the top's on the box, you don't know whether the cat is dead or alive. And it's only when you open the box that you either see a live cat or a dead cat. And quantum theory, in its widest sense, is that when you observe a natural phenomenon, but just by the act of the observation of it changes the behavior. And that's what so confuses the scientists. So it's very hard to conduct an experiment when by just doing the experiment you change the result. And this is why the Hadron Collider experiment is both scary and fascinating, because, as you might have read a couple of weeks ago, they've identified these things called neutrinos that apparently can travel faster than the speed of light. Now, if that's true, then that means that poor old Einstein's theory of relativity is shot. Any of you seen one of these? No. Yep. What do you call them? Yeah, stability board or a balance pad. And I found out this morning they have another use, because when you pull this plug out and when you travel you get all the air out, and then when you're doing something like this you have to blow it up. And I was feeling a bit excited this morning at this presentation, the prospect of this presentation, and I spent about 5 minutes blowing this up and I felt a lot calmer. Why would that be? Breathing. Yeah, because many years ago when I worked in the accident and emergency departments, we used to have people who came in with panic attacks, or sometimes varieties of asthma. And they're panting and they can't get enough breath. And what we used to do then, and I don't know whether they do it now, we used to give them a brown paper bag and get them to breathe into that. Because they're breathing so fast, they're blowing off all of the carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide helps to regulate the breathing. So if they're breathing, the same air in and out, it builds up the CO2 levels and they start to breathe more slowly. And panic is basically a breathing problem. If you can breathe more slowly, you're going to be calmer. Actions can affect the body. And we were talking about posture in the dentist this morning, and breathing as another one. If you breathe slowly, it's pretty much impossible to be anxious. If you breathe fast, it's very difficult to stay calm. So just another example of the importance of breathing in controlling the way we think and the way our body works. And this is good for golf. I would recommend this as well. Available on Amazon. It's not on my website, but it's really good. It costs about £17. You can buy one or you can buy two. And I see quite a few people on the tour using these, because balance is something that everybody can learn. And balance is good balance is something that takes a bit of practice. And Charles, would you like to have a go? Yeah. Be really, really careful. In fact, I'm standing by you, but see if you try and balance on that. See how you get on.
Wow.
It's pretty good. Now, for Charles to be able to balance on that, he's probably using about 1,000 muscles, because if he's a little bit off, he falls off. And I've seen people standing on that like you. I've seen them doing putting practice. Yeah. Because they're learning balance, because the secret of putting seems to be to keep everything really still. And the other thing that I've seen people use this for is they'll be standing feet together just like you're doing, swinging a club. It's a good balance exercise on the range, feet together and hit 7 irons or something, because you can't move too much. You do get a good feel of balance in your hips and legs and things. Okay, have a seat. Tony, you have a go. See how you get on with your balance. Pretty good. Look at that. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Great. Okay, get off before you fall over. I'm frightened. Yeah, I'd hate somebody to hurt themselves. But for improving your golf, simple thing like that, I'd really recommend it. The tour players do it. That's what I'm doing today. I'm teaching you some of the things, or showing you some of the things the tour players do. I saw at the Portugal Masters last year, I think it was then, about the last person to leave the putting green as it was getting dark was Chris Woods, and he was standing on one of those doing his putting for at least an hour. And I was really pleased to see him win at least one event this year, because I think he deserved it, because he's going the extra mile. Right, talking of making things easy, we'll do our little assessment now. Can you put that thing on the screen, Lucy? And Caroline's going to hand these out. What I'd like you to do is get into groups of like 3. This is just a little exercise. And if you were a young golfer wanting to get your PGA qualification, you go through a 3-period of very well controlled and put together coursework. And one of them is a psychology assessment. And this is the scenario. And it's very, very true to the kind of situations that me and all other mind coaches deal with. Okay, there we go. The case study. A young player in his first year on the European Tour, he's a rookie, is struggling to overcome the effects of arousal on the course during tournaments. And this is causing his performance to suffer this season. He's been suffering over the first few holes on the final day when his goal is to climb the leaderboard. By the time he approaches the 5th tee, he's calmed down, but he's already dropped shots and therefore failed to capitalise on his position, just like this Walker Cup player I was telling you about. He's proven he's got the ability, all these guys do, to compete with the best on the tour, but he's becoming so pumped up before each important round that's impeding his ability to perform to his potential. Now, Caroline's handing out some stuff. So in your groups of 3, if you could just go through, I mean, you don't need to do the whole thing. Let me just remind myself of what I want you to do. There's some stuff you can quickly read through about this profile. And then there's an analysis of, his good shots and his bad shots. But what I'd like each group to do is to come up with a few bullet points. This person is your client. He could be a friend at your golf club. How would you help this person? What are just bullet points of some of the things that might help him with his, with the challenges that he's facing right now? Okay, so if you can just sit together in your groups of 3 or 2, yeah. And appoint one spokesperson, because the one spokesperson is going to come up and report back on what their group discovered.
So you've done
So this is a sports science degree or something?
It's their PGA qualification to qualify as a professional coach. Yeah. Oh, they do. It's not like it used to be. It's very rigorous. And now we're going to find out exactly how well you've done. So you've appointed a spokesman for each group? Yes. We'll start over on this side for a change. How would the pre-shot routine help?
Well, sort of prepare himself to go into the zone.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
So he's taking more time to go over the shot. Believe in himself. I think he's got a good long-term sort of view of it. Sorry. Come on.
We have done this deliberately because you know how to deal with this stuff now.
Can't remember what I was thinking though. Yeah, so I think he's got a long-term view of where he wants to be, like at the end of the competition, but I can't explain it. Like the belief of doing the first few holes a lot better. I don't know. I can't really.
No, you're doing it really well. You know, he's got that picture in his head of, like Jack did, of him playing those first few holes. He's mentally rehearsed them before. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, good.
But maybe he's thinking of the biggest picture too much, rather than trying to break it down to the first few holes. What is this high fan? Oh. Hypnotherapy session to run through a colour for him, so to put on his glove. So when he's feeling nervous on the first tee, he can relate to that colour.
I think.
And you'll have an anchor then, so you can keep looking at it. or you'll just create an anchor for him.
Excellent. Yes, I'm sure that would help. Thank you very much. Hey, well done. In some ways it's hardest to go first, in some ways it's easiest, because now he's said a lot of good stuff. Right, next group. Who's the spokesperson? John. Well done, John.
Didn't have any option, you ganged up on me.
That's called life.
Well, what we've done with our guy is we've recruited a brand new caddy for him. Yeah, so he's got someone to work with and someone to shoulder a lot of his responsibility.
We thought about that too.
This caddy was shipped in the last round, and what he's done is he's taken his first 3 rounds and looked at the scores he's had on the first couple of 3 holes. And so when they're warming up and practicing on the practicing round, he's telling them, the first round, it says here, he went straight down the middle. That's easy, that first hole. It's only 380, straight down the middle. Middle of the green, it's a sucker pin tucked away on the right hand side. We're going middle of the green, 2 putts, there's our par, off we go. Okay? When he's happy, he's got someone on his bag, helping him, walking with him. Gets up to the first tee, it's just about to be announced, this caddy's at 3. Oh, 3. And again, stand tall. Okay, you ready? Come with me, we're going on the tee. On the tee. Stand there. Down the right hand side, bit of a draw, smack down the middle. Like I'm saying, we crack this, we're on our way. Don't get near that ball yet. I'll tell you when. That's what you need. That's what calms these people down. Someone to talk to. We play on our own. It's no good. It's got someone to talk to, someone to help. It's all been said before, but for a professional, it's the caddy that makes the very good player. This is the winning team, by the way.
That was really good. As an unofficial member of the Caddies Union, I like that approach. And you never know who's going to see this footage, so you might get a call one day. You might find yourself on the bag. Yeah, well done. Like that. You had a different spin on it. What a brilliant team. I'm sure.
Come on, Peter. Well, first of all, just getting my client to recognise he's got 2 very good strengths. One, he's a very technically sound golfer, and secondly, he's got a very good use of imagery, because he said that. So, but his problem seems to be the first 4 holes of the last day. So as he gets nearer to thinking about the trophy, that's where the pressure comes up. So we would get him working on breathing, and we would get him involved in anchoring a positive state at his, what we call optimum arousal, because clearly it's when he gets over aroused is when things go wrong. And we would work, sometimes we'd already worked on him with a pre-shot routine. So, and we'd make sure that his pre-shot routine actually built in some of these breathing and so one good anchoring technique that worked for him. What else have we got? And then prior to the competition, really work, because the self-talk is a bit of an issue for him, to really work on the affirmation, that affirmation that I am a quality golfer, I will win a competition when time is ready, but whether I win or not, I will play to the best of my ability, and that ability is pretty damn good because I know I've done it before, and that's what we'll really get him to work positively on.
That was really good, Philip. And now what's your day job?
Well, business and life coach, but doing a bit of just done a hypnotherapy.
Yeah, I spoke to you before. Yeah, so there's a lot of real good psychology in there and a bit of CBT and stuff that we didn't really go into, but those were great ideas. So yet another different spin on the same situation. That would work. That would work. And you all came up with your own spins. And that's the beauty, I think, of empowering, letting go your right mind and coming up with out-of-the-box ideas and seeing what works and what doesn't work. Because the truth is that we can only control the present. Golf's about staying in the present. Can't control the past. All we can do is control the way we think about it. And there's very little we can do about the future. As Mark Twain said, I deeply regret spending 90% of my life worrying about stuff, of which about 1% did happen. So we're going to finish with a little closing visualization, and then Caroline's just got a few little administrative points to mention at the end, and then we're done for the day, you know, even a little ahead of schedule. And I think you've all been really brilliant. But anyway, let's relax for a moment. So, close your eyes. Start with a deep breath, just like your parents told you. A deep breath in. And be aware of where you are right now, in this very moment, in the present. Be aware of all of the sounds you can hear in the room. And be aware of the reason why you're here today. To have some fun, to learn some stuff about golf, to discover how to be a happier golfer, how to shoot lower scores, not that the scores seem so important as they did before, how to focus on the process, and let the results talk for themselves. And the importance of a role model. Who's the best? Who can we learn from? Who's the best? Who's our favorite golfer? Let's think for a moment about that. Who is our favorite golfer? Because that's the person you can learn the most from. You may not have met him or her, just seen them on the TV. All you know is that you like their swing. You like the way they carry themselves on the golf course. You like their attitude to this perplexing game. This game that can be a sport, an obsession, a compulsion, or even an addiction. But above all, it should be fun. Visualize with your enhanced visualization skills. Go to your local club on the practice ground. It's a bit of a rare occurrence for some of you to visit, probably because you haven't had a lot of much fun in the past there. But in the future you just may have a bit more fun because you'll be going there with a different attitude. Anyway, come what may, picture yourself going to your practice ground and hitting a few shots. Some you like a lot. Some you don't. But they're all 4 out of 10. Because you're out there in the fresh air. It's always a good thing. Even if it's raining, it's better than being stuck inside. And you look over your shoulder, and guess what? You see your favorite golfer walking in your direction. He's not walking towards you, or she's not walking towards you, but heading in your direction. And parks the bag a few yards away and start hitting some balls as well. And after a while, you stop hitting your balls and you just watch. You watch like a baby would do with a new toy in the pram, with rapt attention, an unblinking rapt attention and fascination, something new that's come into your environment. When Luke Donald goes onto the practice ground, the other players often stand and watch him because that person has one of the smoothest swings you could hope to see. And your favorite golfer, it might be Luke Donald, or it could be somebody with an equally good swing, it doesn't matter who, but just watch them. But watch them with every ounce of your attention and focus. See what you see, hear what you hear, the way the ball snaps off the club. What you feel. And then start hitting a few balls yourself. The same rhythm, the same tempo, and the same demeanor. As your favorite golfer hits the ball, so do you likewise. And now we can try the Muhammad Ali exercise. Muhammad Ali, he said, "I float like a butterfly and I sting like a bee." Nobody knew what he meant when he said, "I float like a butterfly." He said, "I'm sick and tired of explaining this to people because they just don't get it. I float out of my body during the fight, and I see my opponent from every angle, That's why I know what kind of punch is heading my way. And that's why I know I have a little more time to get out of the way. And that's why I'm the greatest. And he was the greatest. Some people say he still is the greatest. So you can float out of your body a little and step into the golfer who's next to you, your favorite golfer, and feel what that feels like. Feel what it's like to be in that body, the way that body moves with that perfect tempo and balance. Feel what it's like just for a moment, to feel what it's like to look through those eyes and see how far that ball soars, the shape of it, its behavior on landing. Feel how good it feels, and feel where it feels that good. And think of the best shots that you've hit and how good they felt. Well, this has been magnified by a factor of 10. Because the truth is that all of you have hit some great shots. All of you sank long putts. You've chipped in, you've pitched in. Some of you have scored holes in one. And some are yet to score holes in one. I do hope you'll let me know when you do. And when you've soaked into the experience, step back out again. Step back into yourself and your own place in the practice ground and carry on hitting your balls. But this time, you're enjoying the wider perspective. Seeing what you see, hearing what you hear, and feeling what you feel, and feeling how good it is. We talked about the power of the unconscious mind and how the unconscious mind remembers everything. It's not always immediately there for us to draw upon, but it's in there somewhere in the filing system. And as you sleep and as you dream, tonight as you go to your bed, your unconscious mind will be digesting some of the things we've talked about. You'll have heard some of the other delegates say some really good stuff that would work well in your golf. You've heard some stuff from me. Some will work for you, some may not. Some you're not sure about. There's no hurry. You've got a long time to put all this together. But some of the benefits will come immediately, which will make you a happier golfer, and your friends will wonder what on earth you've been doing on a Sunday today. So start to drift back and come back into the room and open your eyes when you're ready with all the resources you need to do whatever you have to do for the rest of this wonderful day. You could have just sat there and soaked all this stuff up and walked away and you wouldn't have got so much from it, but you've all been very active participants. That's what makes it easy for me and what is going to bring, great rewards for yourself. I think it helps you to digest all this stuff. So once again, thank you for coming.